Having access to safe deprescribing for psychiatric drugs should be a human right. There is no proof that psychiatric drugs are actually fixing any objective chemical imbalance. The mind can only be metaphorically ill or sick, so mental illness is a metaphor. Millions of people, children, teens, adults, are prescribed psychiatric drugs. And by the way, none of this should be construed as medical advice. It is just personal views and personal opinions. Psychiatry is quackery. Psychiatry is pseudoscience. To my knowledge, it has only been in the last 5 or 6 years that there have been academic papers on hyperbolic tapering. In my opinion, everyone who is prescribed a psychiatric drug should know about hyperbolic tapering. Hyperbolic tapering is a strategy that some use to get off psychiatric drugs. Hyperbolic tapering involves a very slow, gradual reduction. Rather than going down a quarter of the dose every week until one is done and off the drug in, a few weeks or a month, hyperbolic tapering can mean taking many months or years to get off a psychiatric drug. The intent is to minimize the withdrawal effects. And this is not me telling anyone to stop a psychiatric drug. Do that working with a prescriber in a safe way. Now, if you cannot find a prescriber willing to help you get off psychiatric drugs, that may be a problem, and that's what this video is about. Having access to safe and effective deprescribing should be considered a human right for anyone on a psychiatric drug. There is simply no proof that someone needs a psychiatric drug for their whole life. It is simply, logically, it's never been proven. It's not been proven, to my knowledge and my understanding. That's my personal view, my personal opinion, and I stick to it. I've made plenty of videos about why psychiatry is quackery. It's my understanding that hyperbolic tapering is something that those in the psychiatric survivor community have sort of figured out for themselves, over the last 10, 15, 20 plus years. And it's only recently become part of some of the mainstream views of a minority of psychiatrists. I believe Joseph DeWitt Dorning has Taper Clinic. You can look him up on Twitter X or YouTube, and he's a psychiatrist that talks about deprescribing. Roger McFillin is a psychologist who talks about the dangers of psychiatric drugs. Joanna Moncrief and Dr. Peter Breggin are also psychiatrists that have talked about the dangers and problems with psychiatric drugs. And notice I'm not calling them medications. Medications implies some healing value addressing some objective bodily pathology. It is my understanding that psychiatry is not objective medicine, and therefore the psychiatric drugs are just drugs. Yes, they affect the body, they can affect cognition, thoughts, feelings, emotions. It doesn't mean that they're objectively curing anything. Once a psychiatric condition becomes an objective bodily pathology, that is, there's an objective measurement, then that quote-unquote psychiatric disorder is then actually within the branch of medicine that the problem is actually with, whether it is neurology or, urology or whatever else. With very little exception, everything in the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, is diagnosed by observing someone's behavior and talking with them. So I would encourage you to learn about hyperbolic tapering if you're part of the CSX movement, the Consumer Survivor and Ex-Mental Patient movement, or if you want to be. And by the way, also, I personally don't think that most people on psychiatric drugs are given full and authentic informed consent. To my knowledge, full informed consent, would involve fully and sufficiently understanding the potential risks and benefits of any, quote unquote, medical treatment and any potential alternatives that could, produce the same desired effect. Now, psychiatry is not objective medicine. Even psychiatrist Thomas Szasz calls psychiatry quackery and pseudoscience, despite being a psychiatrist. Psychiatry is more a branch of economics and politics rather than objective medicine. Psychiatry involves the medicalization of problems in living. So, with all that said, I hope that everyone advocates that hyperbolic tapering should be a human right, whether somebody's on Medicare, Medicaid, or private insurance. If they have access to psychiatric drugs, whether consensually or non-consensually, whether coerced or uncoerced, all psychiatric drug users should have equal access to psychiatric deprescribing and hyperbolic tapering, in my opinion. And if you think that's correct, I hope you promote this idea and share this idea. Psychiatry is quackery. Less outlaw psychiatric coercion and non-consensual psychiatry. Less expose psychiatry for what it is, pseudoscience and quackery. And again, none of this is medical advice, just personal views, personal opinion. Yeah, so expose psychiatry, expose psychiatry, expose psychiatry, expose psychiatry. Hashtag expose psychiatry. Limitless peace. Bless up. Like this video, subscribe if you like it. Limitless peace. Expose psychiatry.